just wanted to start off some videos here. My first one I would like to put out is an intro to Kabbalah for the way that I understand Kabbalah and the way that I'm learning it. And if you're interested, come and join this journey with me. If you go to the cover of my YouTube page, you'll see some resources there that you'll find um, very handy to learn more about what Kabbalah is. So, this journey of mine has been going on now for over 25 years. When I was 25 years old, I asked those bigger philosophical questions: Who am I? And who is God? And I had no idea. I wasn't raised religious, and so I, embarked on that journey, and I wanted to understand who God is in a relationship. I had no idea. I didn't know. I knew at the time I needed some boundaries. I'm a very spiritual person. I intuitively understand certain things, but I really needed some grounding. The way that I was understanding things wasn't accepted by mainstream. And I was dealing at the time I was dealing with some depression, trying to relate to how I can function here in this world, and trying to deal with the chaos of myself and the chaos in the world, and just trying to understand that there had to be, if God is real, there has to be truth, and somehow I wanted to find out what that was. It was actually kind of a survival thing for me, that because being here was too difficult. I felt it was very, very difficult to continue on in this world, trying to understand and make sense of everything. So there, became my journey. And the reason why that I'm sharing all of this is just to take you on that journey with me, that I know all of us can relate to. Why is the world the way that it is? Why are we so divided? Why do we all have our own interpretation of who God is? Why, are we not more united in our thinking? So, what I've recently learned, which is kind of funny to me, is that I am learning Kabbalah. So, and it's amazing what I'm learning. But, to let you know, Kabbalah is not easy. It's not easy, and it's not easy to find. Kabbalah is considered a secret. And from what I understand, because I'm not Jewish, and I'm trying to understand something that is a very Jewish thing. And coming from a non-Jewish perspective, I'm also looking at things differently than the Jews, but kind of the same. And that will lead you into my whole, philosophy in the way that I believe that we have a relationship with the Jewish people. Kabbalah is sort of all of us. It's the science, from what I understand, of our faith in God. But there's a lot to say about it. So, going back to when I started learning Kabbalah, which, like I said, I didn't realize that was the beginning stages of it. Kabbalah, from what I understand, it's looking at things as a whole. It looks at everything. It looks at religion. It looks at science. It looks at astrology. It looks at numbers, at words. It's everything, So anyway, I began my journey to try and understand who God is. So I went into Christianity. I wasn't raised religious, and opened up that door. And I never really liked religion because it was too inconsistent, and it was there was just I wanted something that was consistent, where everybody was saying the same thing. And even within Christianity, there were so many different opinions and views, and all of this was new to me at the time. I didn't realize how disconnected we all were. So I listened to a number of different views. I read a lot of different books, but I was grounding myself and trusting God, and looking for God's guidance in where I should be and where I should go and how I should understand this stuff. And believing in Jesus, because I really, really loved his words, and what he was teaching, and I really identified mostly with what he said. After a number of years of learning with the Christians, and reading a lot of books, and going down that road, I decided that I needed to understand more. It was kind of a superficial understanding of everything, and I just sort of felt like Christianity wasn't taking me to that next level that I wanted to go. It was not really growing and going with the times, I felt. And I felt sort of stagnant there at some point. And so I started asking these other questions of, who is Jesus? Now, just to kind of interject, I'm sure you probably know the Jews don't believe in Jesus. So, that's another barrier from the Christians to the Jews. And unfortunately, religion really has a hard time with loving the other, and that means respecting the other, respecting their beliefs, the way that they're understanding things. They don't believe in Jesus. Jews do not believe in Jesus. So we don't want to try to convert them or anything like that. But this is my journey, and my journey was through Jesus and learning the stuff that he was teaching, and then learning him as a Jewish person. So my journey is a little different than the Jews. But now, looking on my whole, the last 25 years, I realize that Jesus probably preached Kabbalah. And the reason why I just actually realized this and learned this is because he was practicing Judaism when he was when he was learning before his ministry, the years that we didn't really hear too much about in the Bible. He was learning with the Essenes. I just learned this. If you look up Essenes, you'll see that the Essenes were another sect of Judaism that practiced secretly in the mountains this mysticism type of Judaism that it's not accepted. It's still, even 2,000 years later, it's very, very quietly talked about. It's becoming more easier to connect to it through the internet. But even in the Jewish circles, which I can give you an example of why I know this is true, it's kind of frowned upon about talking about it. It's highly secretive, and if you really want to know it, you really, really, really have to trudge through a lot of information, and it's kind of sitting at the bottom of everything else, to try and understand this. It's something that you have to really, really want. To me, it's kind of like this treasure that you need to find. And just like the Bible says, you can't just, buy this, or you can't just find this. It's something that you have to desire in your soul to want to know, and that's really understanding God as a whole, and understanding God through all of us. The reason why I started making these videos is because I've been writing for about 3 years now. I wrote a book called We Are One, and that was mostly poetry. That was mostly intuitively just written, all about love and this love relationship I have, which I realized that I have a love relationship with Judaism. Although I do not want to be Jewish, that, there is this relationship I have with them. And because I'm very spiritual, and I can be very, very intuitive and have these very, very, very big ideas. However, trusting a lot of the ideas that I have, I can't just come out there and say, well, I have this idea and I really believe that God's speaking to me, or God's telling me this idea. That's not the way that we do things. We have to, like a mirror image, we have to bounce it off of other people to see how it's accepted. And so that's how I trust the stuff that I say. I bounce it off of what the Jews are doing, saying, what they're believing. It all has to do with astrology. It all has to do with the times and their holy days and everything that they're doing. I feel like I'm sort of connecting to them on this level that I'm realizing more and more that it's bigger than a physical thing. It's a deep, deep, deep thing that I believe that we have this relationship that not a lot of people, I think, are really connecting to. So just back to the Judaism that I believe that Jesus was preaching back then was more than likely Kabbalah. And the scribes and the Pharisees at that time really did not like that. They didn't even like it that the Essenes were doing that. But once Jesus learned Kabbalah, I believe he went out there and it wasn't a secret. He told everybody. He was eventually murdered for it. But if you do connect to Kabbalah, you'll see, and you'll see what I'm saying. It is, it sounds a lot like the stuff that Jesus was preaching. So after about 15 years or so trying to understand things from a Christian perspective, I ended up trying to understand things from a Jewish perspective. And that's because Jesus is Jewish. So why wouldn't I try to understand him as a Jew? Christianity isn't looking at him that way. There's so much to Judaism that people who are not Jewish don't understand. Even though I'm very close to the things that the Jews are doing, I can't even understand so much of it because I'm not in their world. However, I do follow a lot of the things that they do and say, whether it's astrology or the holy days. Those are very, very important things. They go through the Torah, which is the Old Testament, and they go through that annually every year. And there's always portions that all of the Jews are all reading and studying at the same time, but they are also reflecting it with what's going on in the world. So that's the way that they're learning. They're actually learning with us because we are the world. We're the nations, the Jews and the nations. So that's how their Judaism is constantly evolving more and more into Kabbalah, which is the spiritual, which is who we are, which, we are trying to understand that, but you can't just understand what is spiritual. the way that Jesus was trying to explain what spiritual is. Even back then, it was hard to identify with, but today we're understanding this better, because, which is going to be part of, my next series of videos, is really how we've evolved from the beginning of time up until now. And our knowledge is, much more today than it was back in the beginning of time, and getting through that darkness was what we needed to do to make that switch into going into the light, which is where I see the world is going now. And that's how we learn, is through reflection, through a mirror image. That is how it all began. God had said that we are made in his image. And so that's really where you need to start with things, is what does it mean to be in the image of God? And that's basically all my writing, that, I realize is basically Kabbalah. It's not exactly said the way that I say it, because I'm coming from a perspective of Messiah, which the Jews right now are also believing that Messiah is coming soon. And I've always been understanding things more from the other end of things, seeing us complete, and so, that's where all my writing stems from. But, we really need to understand ourselves from as part of of who we are. We can't just understand ourselves on the outside. We need to understand ourselves from the inside, right from who and where all of this started, and how we all evolved together. And so, yeah, then, things took me to another place where I was trying to understand who Jesus was as a Jewish person, which took me to a synagogue here in my city that I am. And I went to an Orthodox synagogue, which, it wasn't planned, because I didn't know that there were differences even in Judaism. There's Orthodox, there's conservative, and then there's liberal. And even within the Orthodox, there's all these different levels and different types of Judaism as well. So there's so much, it's a whole other rabbit hole to go and learn about. But I think it's a part of another part of ourselves that we should really be trying to understand, because it's our history, so being there for, I guess I was there for about 3 or 4 years, and, also kind of thinking, wow, like, I really connect to this. And, I kept it secret that I was believing Jesus as Messiah, but I wanted to really understand Jesus as a Jewish person. So I was really feeling like, okay, well, Jesus would be doing all of this stuff. So, after toward, the end of 4 years or so, I was starting to think that, well, maybe I should convert to Judaism. And it became a question, and it was something I struggled with. But of course, the Jews don't believe Jesus is Messiah. So that was not something that I was willing to forget about, because Jesus was the person that took me to where I was, where I am, where I'm going. He also, I truly believe, is Messiah. And that truth will never go away with me. It's always, something that I'm not willing to compromise. And so, towards the end of that, it became challenging, but it was determined that I was not going to convert to Judaism. I'm not Jewish, and I'm going to be okay with that. And I knew I wouldn't be completely accepted by the Jews unless I converted, but I decided that that's not me. So at that time as well, just to give you that example of how secretive Kabbalah is, there was a rabbi that I was sort of following. He had started some groups that he had called Kabbalah, and a group, and there was only about maybe 4 of us that were interested in it. And I was thinking, okay, Kabbalah, like that's something Madonna was into, like, what is this? And I'm always trying to understand things from another perspective. So yeah, I was interested and went to a couple of his classes and really liked them. But then his he just disappeared. And so I started asking some people from the synagogue what happened to this rabbi. I really liked him. I liked his classes. And secretively, again, I was told how he was kicked out of the synagogue for preaching Kabbalah. So, yeah, it's very hard, even for rabbis, to talk about Kabbalah, because in their circle, it's frowned upon, and if it's not done in a certain way, I think they're changing the rules on this, but I think that originally you were only supposed to preach Kabbalah after 40 years of studying Judaism very, very strictly. Like the rabbis, they're learning 24/7. Like this is what they do. So Kabbalah is like kind of like a higher level of Judaism. So, but there now is groups out there that are teaching it, which it's starting to become a known thing, and it's starting to become easier to connect to it if you really want to understand this level of Judaism in a more deeper way, which will help you connect to a deeper part of yourself, as it has with me. What's really interesting, though, is that I didn't realize that that's what I am preaching is basically Kabbalah, but it's from a non-Jewish perspective, and it's from one that believes that Jesus is Messiah. And what I would like to continue to do with these videos is introduce you to the way that I see things as a non-Jew that believes in Jesus, from a Kabbalistic point of view. So I hope that this helps, and I'll do other videos that will teach you about the way that I see things and see how humanity comes together in this beautiful way of love. And that's really what I believe is our wheel that continues this learning into more learning, into a deeper understanding of who we are, because we are always, as a human, we need to be driven by things, and right now, like opposition is so obvious. Like, there's darkness, there's light, there's spirituality, there's physicality, there's good, there's evil, and right now, to me it's very obvious, like this, and to a lot of us, it's very obvious how there's this separation, where God has this reflection of that's how we learn. Well, I believe that, we are in a time of balance right now, and as we're learning to balance these things, even religion and spirituality, and coming to that place where we're more balanced, that's when we can really truly understand who we are and what our purpose is. But what drives us forward from then on is the love. and it's the loving of each other, and understanding our love relationship that keeps that drive. And just like when you first meet somebody, and you have all of these feelings, and you want to get to know them, and and the relationship just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Just and you get married, and then you start living your life, and you go through all of life's challenges. Well, that doesn't stop. I believe we're constantly in that, having that relationship as a non-Jew to a Jew. I believe that's what we're doing until we reach a place where we're in love, and we're ready to be one. Because we're now thinking, we're all thinking with that one consciousness, that one thought that's the same. That's where we're going. So, yeah, it's a really, really beautiful thing. So I hope that you will continue to look deeper into who you are. I really encourage you to check out Kabbalah, and and see all of the amazing things, and how much is out there for us to understand about ourselves and who we are and our purpose and what we're doing here in this world. Thank you for watching.